Hey, how's it going today? It's Ripley here. Let's break down some super easy electric guitar songs for beginners. And this is kind of a follow-up to my other very popular YouTube video. And so in that video, we broke down some classic riffs into some power chords. Now I've got a new batch of riffs and some new batches of power chords as well. And so what you can do is actually get the PDF for all the tabs to this lesson in the description below. And so what we're going to be breaking down today, reading off my list here, we got a Chicago riff, 25 or 6/4, Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, Paradise City by Guns N' Roses, and then we're going to up it to some power chords, and we're going to break down the Thin Lizzy track, Jailbreak, Beverly Hills by Weezer, and Brainstew by Greenday. And these are specifically and strategically selected for you as a beginner guitarist that wants to rock. These are perfect beginner tracks for you. So let's dig into the lesson. The first riff that we're going to go over, again, is that Chicago riff, which sounds something like this. And stick around to the end of the lesson, because what we're going to do is massively upgrade that track as well as learn Brainstew by Greenday. So what we're doing here on this very first riff, you can actually play it all with one finger if you really wanted, but we're going to go up to the 5th fret of the A string here. Okay, so the big string, you're just going to want to lock in between these 2 frets, get your finger as close to the fret as possible, this being the 5th fret, the 5th line across the fretboard here. We're just going to go ahead and play that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And there's a break in between, so it's... Now, in case yours sounds like this, well, what you're going to want to do is just decompress your finger, release the pressure, so it's kind of like just sitting there on top of the string, just like the same weight of like a damp cloth or something like that. Like, it's just not pressurized, it's not engaged, and it's just let loose, okay? And that's going to stop the string, and that's a huge guitar technique that us guitar players use all the time, is that muting technique. And it happens with chords too. Okay, so doing that little push-up. And so that's really the technique for all the notes. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Okay? And with my picking hand, what you'll notice here is I've got my right hand right on the bridge, and whether you're playing acoustic, electric, a Gibson style guitar, a Fender style guitar, you're going to want, like, all the same rules apply here. You're going to want to get that right hand planted, and in this case I'm using the heel of my hand right on this this saddle piece right here, right on the bridge, and just resting my hand on there, and that's going to give me a lot of pick accuracy with my pick. And I'm just using all downstrokes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then of course making that string stop by lifting up my left finger. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go down to the 3rd fret and do the exact same thing. And from here, we just do a chromatic movement. And if you ever heard that, that term, what it means is we're just going down 1 fret at a time. Okay, so we got... Okay, it's just a slight variation there at the end. But yeah, so the very beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's the riff. That's it. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and play it a couple times together? And keep in mind, press pause, roll this back. Also, get that PDF downloaded below so that you can have the tabs to work with. And also, I have videos on how to read tab as well, so I'll make sure to link those to you in that PDF. Okay, so you'll be well taken care of. So 1 finger riff. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And again, that's 25 or 6/4 by Chicago. Great, great track, super fun song. I really love it. So that is the very first riff, super easy electric guitar song for a beginner. And maybe you would want to start with your third finger. Okay, maybe you're wondering like, what fingers do I play with? I mean, probably, from a teacher's perspective or, from learning guitar properly, you probably want to use this third finger. And the reason why is that when you go down to your first finger, like the next note of the riff, see how it's just like an easier movement? I'm not actually moving my hand, because here I'm moving my whole hand. I'm going. Whereas if I start with my third finger, I'm not moving my hand, I'm just utilizing a different finger. So that would be the only tweak with that one that you might want to consider. But yeah, like I said, stick around to the end of this lesson, because when we get into Brainstew by Greenday, we'll do a massive upgrade to this song with power chords, and you'll learn Brainstew by Greenday. So it's pretty cool that way. All right, so the next riff in the mix is Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. All right, so another super easy electric guitar song for a beginner. Okay, and just a quick reminder before we dig right into this, is it's really helpful to know how the riff goes before you attempt to play it, right? So again, I'll provide the name of the track and the tabs, and just go and listen to these songs and see if you can hum them first. So let's just try to get it in our head. We got down, 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 down. Right? So it really helps to kind of get that ingrained first before you kind of take a stab at any song. All right, so here's the riff again. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, and then on that third one, we're going to go up to the 4th fret. Okay, and a quick move up to the 5th fret. So those are all the 3 frets that you're going to want to know is 2nd fret, 4th fret, and 5th fret, all on the 2nd fattest string, the A string. So we got. Okay, and again, if you just know those 3 frets and you know how the riff is supposed to sound, and you got the tabs working for you, which you can get in that PDF below, then you'll be off to the races. Okay, so we got. Okay, so I'm just using my first finger and my third finger. Okay. Now what is a huge upgrade in this song is if you throw in an E major chord, which you heard me doing there when I first introed the riff. So okay, so an E major chord looks like that. However, we're not going to get into an E major chord in this lesson. If you know it, then great, you can integrate it into the Satisfaction riff. However, here's a super easy way to get kind of a thicker, more rugged, badass sound going on in that riff, is just to play an E power chord, okay? And how we do that is actually just by one finger on the A string, on that 2nd fret, the first note of the actual Satisfaction riff. But in this case, what you're going to do is you're going to hit your low E string and the A string on the 2nd fret at the same time. Okay, so, okay. And if you caught one of my other videos, I break down TNT by AC/DC, which is another great riff. Okay, hitting that low E string alongside that first fretted note just kind of thickens it up, makes it sound a little bit more legitimate. Okay, and it's actually a super easy little upgrade that you can do. I think that definitely the full E major chord and then into the riff. I like that myself, but this is a super easy upgrade just to hit 2 strings at the same time. So I'm just plowing through the E string and the A string at the exact same time, and then moving on with the riff, exactly how it's tapped. All right, so that's Satisfaction, classic guitar riff, and just so you know, to get kind of more of the tone of what the Rolling Stones are using, honestly, any old fuzz pedal will get you like 90% closer. I've got distortion going on in my amp, which helps out a lot, but definitely that fuzz pedal sound will really upgrade that riff and get you into the tonal wheelhouse of the Rolling Stones. All right, now the third riff I want to show you, another easy but cool electric guitar song riff, would be the riff from Paradise City from Guns N' Roses. So here's what we got. There's chords in the background, we got the melody, and then there's that big whistle blow. Boo! Yeah, baby, rock and roll. All right, so actually another pretty easy chromatic style riff, so 1 fret at a time, all right? Another great example of that is Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin. I'll cover that in a future lesson. But yeah, 1 fret at a time. So we got 3rd fret. Okay, so I'm starting with my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the biggest string here, on the E string. And that's the very first cycle that you're going to want to get into, is just going. Okay, so 3, 1, 2, 3. This is brilliant because we're going to use our first 3 fingers and match them up with the first 3 frets. So 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then furthermore, there's some little variations in this riff. We're going to go up to the A string and stuff. But yeah, so here it goes, nice and slow. So. Okay, so let's cover that very first part. So we do the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 twice, and then you're just going to alternate between the 1st fret and the 3rd fret. So we got 3, 3, 1, 3, and we end it on the 1st fret of the next string down, the A string. Okay, so that riff nice and slow. Let's hit it like down, 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 down. Ready, 2, 3, go. So there's the other variation. So we're just going to go 3rd fret to the 1st fret of the A string. But otherwise, it is very, very similar, the first part and the second part. So let's try to put those two together. And again, that tab might be helpful to really just understand exactly where those notes go and the order of the sequence. But here we go. Let's take it nice and slow. We'll go down, 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 down. 3, 4, go. We repeat it. Okay, so that last part, this would probably be the easiest way because there's this great big bend in there. So that's going to be 3, 3, 4, 3, 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and take that riff, you and me, nice and slow. Here we go. Down, 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 down. 3, 4, go. So at the very end there, you can do the bend. So basically, we're hitting the 3rd fret into the 4th fret. Okay? Or you can just say, screw the bend, go 3, 3, 4, 3, 1. Or 3, 3, bend into 4. Okay, because we're raising the pitch of that note into the 4th fret note. And ending on that 1st fret. Again, just a couple of tweaks with that riff just to upgrade them, make them sound like legit rock and roll, is first get that hand planted, okay? Just a big reminder of that. Get that hand planted on that bridge. Doesn't matter what kind of guitar you got, get that hand planted for these single note riffs. It's going to give you so much more accuracy, and I'm sure, like, let me know in the comments below if you were floating or something and having some difficulty, and then let me know as soon as you lock that down if you had like an instant upgrade in your playing. Okay, a lot of people find that, so let me know if that was you. So get that hand locked in, and then on the left hand, you'll see I'm shaking these notes, doing vibrato. Now that's what I consider to be a very advanced technique. It's basically just bending the string in one direction. I'm going down to the floor and back to home base. I'm not bending the string both directions. And then there's a rhythm to it too, and there's all these different elements. It is an advanced technique. You don't have to worry about it at all, but it's something to mess around with and have some fun with if you'd like. Okay, so I do have my other two fingers loaded up on that string, so I have lots of muscle on that string to do a nice strong bend and to make it fast and rhythmic. Okay, so awesome track, and I brought out the Slash Gibson Les Paul for that one. I'm a big Slash fan, as you can probably guess. But hey, what a great guitar player, right? So next on the list, we're gonna up the ante here. So now, if you remember in the Satisfaction riff by the Rolling Stones, we talked about this E power chord. Okay, so it's just a one finger chord. However, when you play these two strings at the same time, we start getting a very powerful sounding chord, aka power chords. All right, so power chords are so essential, and I really believe that guitarists should tackle these riffs first. Like, these are three great examples of riffs that you can get under your fingers, and it's like kind of taking your fingers to the gym, right? You're kind of like going to the gym and lifting weights and getting these fingers stronger, which will help you get into more advanced stuff like chords, bar chords, and soloing. All right. So of course, sometimes people, they want to hop right into all that stuff, and they kind of fail, unfortunately, because their fingers just don't have the kind of strength and independent nature that we need them to have. And so riffs are a great way to practice these. So trying to get the good word out there and get you on the right track here. So with this power chord, this is the kind of the next step up. So we get those riffs down, get these single note power chords down, like Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. That's the beauty of power chords. As soon as like I start playing that riff, I just start, doing that face. Just feels so cool to play that stuff. So let me show you the riff. And again, it's kind of like a new technique, but it's actually maybe even easier than some of those single note riffs I was just showing you. All right, so power chords. So this very first one that we talked about was the one from Satisfaction. Hopefully get that under your fingers. It just starts making you want to do that. So the very first one is actually just take that E power chord, move the whole thing down, okay, down towards the floor to your A string. So your A string is open, and now your first finger's on the D string. Okay? It just makes you want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit A, this A power chord, and it's called an A power chord because our lowest note is our open A string. So that's kind of our root note and what we would call it. So there's your A power chord. We're going to go to our E power chord. And now here's the real deal power chord right here. Okay? This is going to be on the second fret of the low E string. And here's the beauty of power chords is that they're actually always the same. Okay? So we've got our first finger, dial this up 2 frets, and put your third finger 1 string over. Okay, so that power chord formula is actually always the same, and we find it in here too. Okay, again, we got our open string, up 2 frets, 1 string over. There's our note, right? We could play it like that, but it's kind of silly because we don't need our first finger here, so we're just going to put it there instead. But that power chord formula is true all the time. 2 frets up, 1 string over. Okay, so you can see it, and it's cool once you kind of like see it in this open position, it's a little bit hard to visualize it. So what I would recommend is to actually fake it and like put your first finger on this white part, this white strip called the nut. So you can see that it is indeed exactly the same when you visually see it, right? So, however, when we're playing these open string power chords, very, very rarely would you ever see anybody play them with your third finger. It's almost always going to be with your first finger. Okay, so we got. Okay, so that would be the first move that you'd want to get down. Just go A power chord, E power chord, and then do a double stab on that full-fledged power chord with your first finger and your third finger. You'll notice that my thumb is actually in the back of the neck for these. So if you're trying to do this power chord with your thumb kind of hanging over, or maybe it's just a little bit tucked in behind the neck, try tucking it way in the neck, and you'll see that it actually changes that wrist angle, right? To make it a little bit more like a 90-degree angle, which will help you reach up and around the guitar to make that full-fledged power chord. So let me know if you're having trouble with power chords in the comments below. But let me know if that helped to get the thumb planted in the back of the neck, reach up and around, and you'll get that spread that you need with your fingers and the reach that you need to hit those low strings. Okay, so again, that first move, you just want to go 3, 4. Okay, dum, 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 dum. Now let's talk about that last bit. So we got that loaded up. So all the very first move that you can do here is actually go. Just keep that third finger there, which sounds totally fine actually. Okay, I'm pretty sure that the Thin Lizzy guitarist would have actually gone back to the E power chord, but it's definitely a more advanced move, and questionably doesn't really sound that much better. Maybe it's not worth the challenge at this point in your guitar playing, but just keep that in mind for the future. But yeah, so the way that I'm showing you, just lift off that first finger, keep your third finger there, and it actually ends up sounding like this. Okay, and you'll hear a little, I'm just doing a little palm mute of some of those low E strings in between. Believe it or not, a palm mute is actually just hitting that low E string, muting it a little bit with your palm. That's all a palm mute is. Makes sense, right? So we got, and you'll hear it like you'll palm mute too much, or you'll not palm mute at all. And you'll just want to find that sweet spot just by gliding your hand front to back. Okay, and some people they'll especially when you're standing up, you'll have your palm mute happening on the side of your pinky finger. Okay, especially with the guitar strap kind of like a lower setting. But I find with sitting, then yeah, the palm mute kind of comes more from that heel of your hand, like right where you're resting your hand on the bridge anyways. And we've talked about that a few times in this lesson already, which hopefully has helped you. So again, getting back to this riff. Okay, so, and there's a couple different ways you can play your power chords. You'll see that I was playing it with my first finger and my pinky. I find that's just like very ergonomic, meaning like it just kind of feels natural, and it's kind of made where my hand naturally wants to sit or be. So anyways, just keep that in mind. But yeah, so. Yeah, I'm like hitting the strings in between there. But first get the movement down. Just get that down. That's going to be powerful. It's going to sound good. And then once you get that locked and loaded, once it's feeling really solid and tight, you can start adding little chunks and little palm mutes in between and all that kind of rock guitar goodness that just kind of elevates it in a way, right? It just kind of makes it sound more awesome. But yeah, get that riff down. kind of start to finish the way that I showed you. Just get the foundation down first. And again, you will have access to that tab. And the only thing is with that tab is you're going to see 2 notes written on top of each other. And I'll make sure to include a tutorial video on how to read power chord tabs as well. Okay, so another couple power chord songs that are actually super easy to play, which are awesome, is going to be Beverly Hills by Weezer, which sounds like this. All right, so this one is great. Maybe I should have started this one because it's probably even easier than the Thin Lizzy one. But the Thin Lizzy one's so beautiful because it's got those open power chords. But this one is all locked and loaded with these full-fledged power chords with that power chord formula with your root note, 2 frets up, 1 string over. You got your 3rd finger locked and loaded up there. And this is cool because we're going to integrate this new technique, which we call the rock clap. Okay? Okay, so what you're going to see there is I'm doing this clap with my right hand. I've just got a soft fist. I'm just clapping that into the strings. And that sound that's coming off the guitar is actually just the strings, the metal on metal sound of the strings hitting the frets. Okay, just a little bit of a click there, and you can get that sounding pretty good with a nice soft fist, just hitting those strings against the knuckles. And I've got my the dead strings happening with my left hand. Otherwise, it would probably sound like that, right? So, get your left hand, kind of the weight of a damp cloth covering those strings. Okay, so we've got that 1st fret power chord on a low E string, 1 fret here, 2 frets up, 1 string over, and the rock clap. So 1, 2, smack. And then we just move this power chord down to the next set of strings. Exact same power chord formula, 1st fret on the A string, 2 frets up, 1 string over, is where your 3rd finger or your pinky finger can be. I would suggest trying to get that 3rd finger because eventually what you're going to want to do is get that pinky finger in behind the 3rd finger to get a full 3-finger power chord, okay? So we got switch back and forth between them 3 times, and all you do, move that up 2 frets in a break. Okay, so that's that one in a nutshell. Okay, again, you get the tab for that. Really, the only kind of upgrades you'd want to do for this one is a technique that you see Weezer do a lot. I actually saw Weezer live not too long ago, and it was cool to see him playing these style of power chords. This guy right here. So what you'll see is like instead of a full switch, what you'll see is he actually leaves his 1st finger on that 1st string. Okay, and it makes this super thick power chord. And you can only do this really for power chords that start from the A string. So that's one thing that you can try doing. You can see I'm adding my my pinky finger behind my 3rd finger there too. Okay, so there's a couple of variations of power chords there. And yeah, eventually you'll want to get all of them, but really what I want you to focus on is these couple of riffs here where you got open string power chords, okay, and then this main power chord, just your 1st finger and your 3rd finger. But just in case you wanted to upgrade those, or you like those sounds and you can quickly see what I'm doing, then just hop right in and mess around with all those different shapes and the fingerings and stuff. But again, just focus on that foundation, and and it goes in that cycle. You get your single note riffs, which we talked a lot about. We got Chicago. Okay, and then we had Satisfaction. And then we had Paradise City. Okay, and we talked about palm muting a little bit throughout this lesson, but that's another thing you could do with the Paradise City riff. Just play the exact same thing, but find that sweet spot with your right hand. Okay, it just changes it from that to... Okay, so you got a couple of options with that. And it just kind of makes it, you know, you got your A version and your B version with really hardly changing anything at all. You're just moving your hand like a millimeter up towards the headstock, and then you got a palm mute, and it just sounds totally different. Okay, and then what we talked about was upgrading those single note riffs to kind of the next stage, which is power chords. Okay, so we talked about the Thin Lizzy riff, and then we talked about Beverly Hills. Okay, and all those variations of the power chord. This being the core one, the foundation one that you want to get down. You could also play that with your pinky finger though. We talked about adding your pinky finger in behind the 3rd fret. And at this point, they're all the same chord, okay? And then we talked about this crazy upgrade when you get to a power chord on the A string. And this works with or without the pinky finger, but to drag that low string in behind the power chord, which just kind of makes it super muscular and beefy. And yeah, it's a technique that countless amounts of artists use, and I like to integrate that in my playing too, because I just love the toughness of those power chords. Now, finally, what we're going to talk about is Brainstew by Greenday and how to upgrade. And again, we're talking about making things more muscular here. So we're going to talk about the 25 or 6/4 by Chicago riff and how to make that more beefy. So if you remember, we had that riff. So all you'd want to do is when you're playing that with just one finger, see if you can add in the power chord note. 2 frets up, 1 string over. Okay, and you could actually go down like this to play that, but again, you'd always want to maybe play it with your 1st finger, as that's a more common guitarist type thing to do. So we got so that's 25 or 6/4 with power chords played a little bit slower, which I don't know if you're kind of catching this, but it sounds a heck of a lot like Greenday's song Brainstew. Sounds something like this. Okay, so all I'm doing there is power chords. I'm just doing a quick shot. Okay, so it is a different song, it's a different rhythm, different tempo, everything from 25 or 6/4, but the exact same notes. It's crazy how that works, right? And the more songs that you learn, the more crossover you're going to find between them. Super, super cool. But yeah, like different genres, different bands, different eras, and different sounds totally, but exact same kind of fundamental guitar stuff going on. Okay, so again, exact same frets as we covered in the 25 or 6/4 by Chicago, but now we're playing Brainstew by Greenday, and we got chug chug. Okay, and it's just a quick down down to plow through both those strings. And you can absolutely add on that pinky finger if you like the sound of that. Down a 3rd fret, down a 2nd fret, down a 1st fret. Okay, and those last 2, as you hear, da dum, da dum, they happen a little quicker. There's not a bit as much of a space in between them. All right, so again, you do have the PDF available for you for download right in the description below. So make sure to get a hold of that I'll try to include all of the links that you're going to need to learn how to read tab, learn how to read power chord tabs. I'll also try to include some charts of the power chords and all the different shapes and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. Also, what I want to gift to you is my 100% totally free beginner guitar course called 5-Minute Guitar. It's valued at $100, okay? And we do have the 5-Minute Guitar System book, which we can ship to your door, which is totally compatible with that. It kind of, we kind of touched on some of the first chapters of 5-Minute Guitar in this lesson in the sense that you start with your single note riffs, you go to your power chords, but then 5-Minute Guitar will show you different songs and a whole bunch of other songs and scales and all the, kind of expand on these topics a lot. And then we also go into chords and bar chords into that whole series as well. And I do believe that this 4-step system is really, really important for a beginner to go through. And sometimes if you hop right into, crazy bar chords and strumming and switching between them without having some sort of foundational base, and playing through these riffs and stuff, a guitarist can unfortunately have a big hard time. All right, so I wanted to make sure that I have this program available to a guitarist like you totally for free and on the house. Happy to do it for you. And you'll find the directions on how to get access to 5-Minute Guitar right below in the description. Furthermore, we do one-on-one lessons, which you definitely want to check out. Probably the fastest, most powerful way to learn guitar. Mike B, our lead instructor here at Rock the House, is killing it, just teaching people all over the world. So that's definitely an option to keep in mind as well. So hopefully you liked this video. Make sure to leave a comment below, and subscribe to this YouTube channel at the very least. If you don't take me up on my PDF or my book that I can ship to your house, or our video courses or our one-on-one lessons, just subscribe to this YouTube channel, because it's my New Year's resolution basically is to keep on putting out content. And so let's rock it. Let's rock the house together. And until the next lesson, keep on ripping it up.